So this is an introduction to dry point etching. First thing you want to do is peel away this protective plastic on both sides of your plastic. So you want to peel it off both sides, and then your plastic should be the same size as your design. I cut this one down, and then you want to tape it onto the paper. Understand, if you do it this way, you're going to print a mirror image. If you don't want to print a mirror image, you have to tape it upside down, and then if you put it on a light table, you'd be able to see the drawing through the paper. But I don't care with this if it's a mirror image or not, so I'm just going to do it like this. And it is a good idea to tape it down so it can't wiggle too much, and you want to tape areas that you're not putting any lines, obviously. Two spots is fine. There are a couple main points about using the Drypoint tool, which looks like this. One point is that it only works if you keep it more or less perpendicular to the surface. So you want to draw like this. And the other point is that unlike, you can see how when I did this pencil sketch, I was pressing harder in some spots and getting a thick line, and I was pressing not so hard in other spots to get a thin line. Etching doesn't work like that. With Drypoint, all your lines are the same width. So the most efficient way to do it is just trace over your whole drawing with a clean, simple line. And if you're doing it on the light table, this is the only part that you have to actually do at the light table, just so you know where everything goes. And that's going to look kind of like this. You can make a lot more lines than you think, because each one is going to print very, very thin. Now I'm going to take it off my drawing after I'm sure that I've gotten all the main things, and I'm going to put it on a piece of dark paper. And depending on where the light's coming from, on this dark background, you can see your lines pretty well. For you to see what I mean, I'm going to turn this at a slightly different angle. Let's see. And so you'll have to take my word for it that I can see these lines, depending on where I put my head, I can see these lines pretty clearly. And the big thing I want to emphasize is that if you want to create a thicker line, you're just going to go over that line a bunch of times. That would be considered very bad practice if you were doing a pen drawing. With pen drawing, you're just supposed to press a little harder. But that's the only way that we can create those thicknesses in Drypoint etching. To go over the lines that we want to have be dark, we got to just go over them a bunch of times, like this. And then if we want to create a shadow, like a really dark area, for example, I can have my drawing here as a reference. I want to put a dark shadow in here. You just have to go over it, cross-hatching in different directions a bunch of times. And even what I just did there is just going to be like a light gray. If you want it to be black, you basically have to keep going over it more times than you would think would be humanly possible. So you're really just making a bunch of lines. And everything that we've learned about hatching direction really applies here, because you obviously cannot blend or smudge anything. The only way you can create a transition is by varying your hatching direction. And the only way you can create a dark is by hatching a bunch of times over that area. So if hatching feels pretty natural to you by now, you're going to enjoy this. If you have to think about your hatching direction, this is going to be a little bit of a pain, but I'll pass this around in a minute. And this sheet of plastic is one that we can practice on. So you can try adding a little to this drawing, and then we will print it next time and see how it. So you can see like the whole process. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to stop.